So I'll start just by saying, so I'm a Weebawkai citizen. My grandmother was enfranchised because she married a white man.
Hmm.
And so just to put it plainly, she was married before Indian status came to be. But what had happened is that you would be on a membership list. So Indian status came into effect around like 1950s. But before that, it was under a banned list. And so that you were then given this card. But the Indian agents followed that banned list specifically. And so what had happened then is that come, you know, Indigenous men, First Nations men, when they were married a white woman, the white woman got her status. And then when an Indigenous woman married a white man, she had her status revoked, and they called that enfranchisement, as though, oh, you're enfranchised now, you get to vote. And so that's how that process started. And why they did that is because um, white women were then raising Native children. Through mothers were known more so to be able to pass on cultural knowledge. I mean, fathers were, of course, as well, but
Oh,
just to the nurturing capacity that Indigenous mothers would pass on that knowledge. So they were trying to stop that. And so that's what happened to my grandmother. And so when I started school in social work, I'd never even considered any of the history of my own family. And so I did a research paper on Bill C-31, and like my mind exploded with all of this knowledge, with all of this information. And I kept on researching and looking into the specific bills as time went on. So I researched Bill C-31, C3, S3, and then now Bill C-38 is coming up next as well. But that doesn't necessarily talk about anything in relation to the second generation cutoff rule. And how that second generation cutoff rule came to be was because through Bill C-31 in 1985,
mhm.
um, what had happened is that these people, these women, were now going to get their status reinstated. So they needed a way, the Canadian government needed a way to still remove status from other generations. And so that was the tactic that was kind of used back in 1985, was to do that. That here's your status, but it's going to get cut off if you keep on marrying non-natives. It's going to get cut off to your, usually it's kind of hits at the grandchildren level or great grandchildren. So if you were born there was this aspect called the double mother rule, which was addressed through Bill C-3. So if you had two, um, what was it? Two, I can't necessarily, it took into effect that it allowed status entitlement to grandchildren of women who lost their status. So that was part of that enfranchisement piece. And so what's really bizarre, though, is that a mother could have a child born in 19, say, let's just say 1980 and 1990. Well, one of those children, the one in 1980's children would get status. The
Yep,
children from 1990 would not get status. So there's a
yep,
huge discriminatory component there
yep.
based on allowing kind of the membership to come forward to have that identity and belonging within a community. So that is what the second generation cutoff rule is in relation to that. So you have your one parent, or like a grandparent and your parents, only one of you have status, and then you kind of go from there.
Right.
So, and I think I ended up posting that here. I've got some images. Bill C-3. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down. Okay, so we've got the second generation cutoff rule, what you need to know. Um, so that's from Bill C-31, created new categories in the Indian Act through Section 6162. So it was meant to eliminate sex-based discrimination, but the amendments created new forms of discrimination. Can you see that on my screen?
No, I
Oh,
can't.
okay. I should move this up here. Sorry about that. Um, hmm, that one. I'm gonna see if I can just bring this down.
Oh, yeah, I see it now.
Oh, okay. That's not what I meant to share, but let me show you this one. Okay, so the bill was meant to eliminate sex-based discrimination, but the amendments created new forms of discrimination, so the second generation cutoff rule. And
Hmm.
so here is the first generation, the grandparent,
Hmm.
as the sixth one, non-Indigenous grandparent. And so
Hmm.
then they have a 6'2" child, non-Indigenous parent, and then the child is then not entitled to status.
That's right.
So, and then what's very odd is that because I'm born in 1978, my daughter has status. She's 5. We don't necessarily, yeah, we don't live on reserve, although I do go on reserve. We do language and culture, and I participate as much as I possibly can living in Comox. But there are children who live on reserve that are not entitled to status because they're born after 1985. They're children. Their children are not entitled because they're born after 1985. So I see huge issues with that. That now, luckily, our First Nation, the Weaver First Nation, is a part of the collaboration aspect of working with the government to discuss the second generation cutoff rule. Here is a piece too. So what we have, there's an aspect too of depending on your nation, if you're under a Section 10 voting threshold. So for Wewakai, we have Section 10 membership authority. So this can address how First Nations create and administer their own membership code. So there is an ability through your Section 10 membership code to be able to say you don't need to get status from the Canadian government first. You can be a member. But right now there's a lot of nations who are saying that you first have to have status from the Canadian government to be a member of the band. But if you're a Section 10, then you don't need that. That can be something that the band decides. Um, so that's another aspect too, is that you can then change your voting, but part of it too is that they've really restricted it that your 50% of your membership has to vote yes to be able to do that. So that's just a little piece there allows this. Do you know if Wewakai knows this? So Wewakai right now is going through the collaboration process. So what we'll do is we will learn a little bit more about what they are doing on Sunday when if you're going to the band meeting, which you can also do. I think I saw a Zoom link for that as well. What I found today, let me see. Is that it? So this, which I found really weird, so this sheet reflects data as of January 11th, 2024. So this would have been last year. It's 2025. I keep on forgetting that. So right now, if you look up here in this, according to data kept in the Indian Register, Weewaikai Nation has 1,257 individuals who are registered under the Indian Act. And then almost 500 of them have a single entitled parent and are registered under 6'2". So this means that 37% of Wewakai Nation's registered population, there's that 37%, their children are not entitled to status. So those children won't get status. And so this says down here too, even though our nation's population is going to grow, our total registered populations are likely to decrease in size. So the government has won, right? Like that's what they're trying to do is decrease the amount of status Indians. So we really have to look at our own self-government. That's even more important. So what happens though is that that's that treaty aspect that those individuals who have status now will keep their status under treaty, but all new members will not get. They will follow underneath a code, our citizenship code. So that's what I know is that afterwards there will not be status anymore. It will be under the nation. That there will be just specifically like membership, a membership, not status. Um, so our nation, so the Wewakai Nation is talking about this the second generation cutoff rule, and they're collaborating with the government to be able to support on funding on how to get to that those steps in that stage. Something that I found really interesting in some of my research was that, let me see where I have this. So in 1985, Canada thought 174,500 people would apply for status, but only 60,000 people did. For Bill C3, Canada thought that almost anywhere up to 1 million people would apply for status, but only 37,000 got it. 2017 is Bill S3. So Canada thought about 1 million people would apply. And since 2017, only 21,000 people have received their status under that. So there's these huge expectations from the government that, oh my gosh, this is going to be unreal and out of control. We're not going to be able to afford it. So personally, for me, I feel like it's a bit of a scare tactic um, for our nations to sort of delay some of those pieces that come into play. And one of the things that really frustrates me is that now we're looking at an election coming up, and what's going to happen when we consider um, changing parties as well. So I wanted to be able to create something to be able to sort of share this information of what I've found out. And then also, I kind of feel that depending on what happens, like we really do have to stay on top of this information because it's extremely important to be able to ensure that we have membership for our nation down the road, and we have, I don't know, just some sort of security on identity and belonging specifically. I have a video I can share with you. It's um it's about Section 10 and some of the feedback. There's a researcher that did some research on Section 10 band memberships and was listening to some of people's concerns. It's really, really interesting and can provide some of the information that I'm talking to you about as well. So I'll share that video with you. I can share that with you afterwards. I can share it in the, are you all a part of the community page, I guess, to find out about this, that I can put it on there after we chat. Hmm. Does anyone have any questions or anything, or not understanding certain pieces?
No, I think I kind of already knew all that was
Okay.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like
So,
my family, like all my whole family has status, but because both my kids were born in 86 and 87,
mhm,
none of their kids don't get it just because of a date, but my sister's kids, grandkids all have it.
yeah,
So it's kind of really aggravating for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Wasn't that
And
because of the date you were married, though, Mom?
There was a date. Well, originally it was because of you guys were born in 86 and 87.
Hmm.
And then when I got a hold of the Indian Affairs or whatever, and then they said because I was married in 87. So now they're using my wedding date instead of the age, and it's like, oh my goodness, like nobody knows what the heck they're talking about.
well, and supposedly my mom had said that one of my cousins is actually born after 1985 and her kids got status. So that to me also does not make any sense whatsoever. So I
That
actually,
happened, yeah,
That's
that
my
happened to
cousin.
me, us too. Yeah, my cousin, her grandkids all got it, and she's younger than me, or she's younger than my kids, and her
weird.
kids got it.
So
Yeah,
Jamie, if I could just say something here.
Yeah.
It's so I was talking to my Aunt Jamie, right? And she said that because I asked her, I was like, when did you get married? And she said she got married in 78. And my parents, like my mom got married in 85, but supposedly the cutoff date is March 25th, 1985. And my mom and dad were married December 1985. So supposedly, then when I went down to the Indian Affairs, because I went down there to get my kids done, like in the office, and the guy told me, he's like, yeah, if your mom wasn't born, or I mean, if your parents weren't married before March, then they probably won't get it. And I
Yeah.
was like, really? So that's why Caitlin's Maverick is getting it, and I don't think my kids will. Neither is Michelle's
Oh my, because of marriage.
because
Yeah.
of their
What?
marriage certificate date. That's when, yeah, that's what matters now. Yeah, so I think it's
Wow.
like that March 25th date, 1985. If you're not married before then, you're cooked.
Mhm.
I thought it was even birth. I didn't even think it had anything to do with marriage. Holy
Yeah,
jeez.
yeah. Because I
How?
Yeah,
remember
that's
when I got my native status last year, there was a side letter that also asked for my mom's marriage certificate. And I was like, oh, why do they want that? And I never clicked until I went down to get my kids done. And I was like, oh, that's why they wanted it.
Hey, that really pisses me off because why
Mhm.
does, if you weren't married,
And
if that
and,
mother did
and
not claim
yeah.
marriage, that
And
child would
my
still be
mom's
in.
older than Aunt Jamie. Like my mom is older than Caitlin's mom. And but Caitlin still gets it.
That's insane. That
my
is
cousin is two
disgusting.
months older than me and born the same year, everything, and her daughter's status, and my kid can't get status. It's wild to me that it has to go on a marriage and not like,
It is wild. I'm
yeah,
older than Caitlin too, and her kids get it, and I don't.
Yeah.
It's so
yeah.
weird.
And we're all in the same family. Like that. Yeah. That's all the
Yeah,
same family there. Yeah. It's crazy.
That is
yeah.
so Eurocentric. That's just such a, you have to be married to be able to then conceive kind of thing, right? That
Yeah.
just blows my mind as to that Eurocentric belief system rather than just considering a human, like a child. Wow.
Hmm.
Unreal, Aaron. I had no idea. I didn't know anything. Like I did that, I went to the collaboration presentation and they didn't mention anything about marriage. They were talking about birth. So yeah, I wonder
Anyways,
what.
I just wanted to add that
Mhm.
in. I got to get my kids down now. I got to go, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was nice joining in on you today.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, give that kids hugs for me. And yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't know anything about marriage whatsoever. That was nothing that I'd
will
ever
do.
heard.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to let you guys know that. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
I'll
thank
talk to you
you.
guys later.
Okay,
Bye
sounds
bye.
good.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I'm just joining in.
Hi, Tara.
Um, yeah, I've been in, I don't know what Leanne has already said, but I was in talks with the lady at the dispute department because we put in a dispute 2 years ago now. And just before Christmas, they had started reaching out and haven't heard from them since. They told me, I would say probably about 5 months ago, I was supposed to get paperwork sent finally, but she had basically flat out said that the reason that they were denied was based on Leanne and Jim's marriage and that they needed to be married before 85.
Yeah, wild. I had no idea. Yeah, I'm sure there's tons of people that don't know anything about that marriage piece, and I feel like that could be a court case in itself for
Yeah.
being for
So the
being
thing that
discrimination.
they
Yeah.
told me about if we were to, because I kind of asked when I finally got to talk to somebody kind of higher up in the dispute department, um, she said, yeah, you can go about doing that, but then we're giving up if anything changes. Like, so we could do it that way, but say it didn't work out in our favor, but then later it's overturned, that ruling. We would have given up the right just because we decided to fight it that way,
Wow.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's unreal. Wow.
And I
Mm.
still have yet to receive any paperwork on this, so the dispute is still out there. It was just, I was getting calls and follow-ups every few weeks and then it kind of just stopped and I was expecting a letter and then the mail thing happened. And so then I was like, oh, maybe I'm still gonna get a letter, but I've still yet to get a letter with their, like, whether they are officially um denied or like, because I still haven't got that. But
Mm.
I was assuming that I would be getting the denial letter just based off of talking to her.
Yeah, and right now too, because of the state of the government, they put everything on hold. So they're not even looking at any statuses, they're not looking at any bills. All bills have put on hold depending on the government. When a new government does come into play, they have a choice on whether they what they do at that stage, right? So depending on what happens, there's going to be a delay regardless with status. Um, but but yeah, having your information in there, and then when we do get a new government, I think that's the best time to follow up at that stage because I think right now everybody in government is sort of freaking out. Yeah,
Mm.
they're really unsure as to what's going to happen, and um, once once we do have the election in April.
April, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All
Was there
right.
was there anything specifically, Krista, Leanne, Tara, William, too, that yeah, you had any other questions about? I know I did. This is just sort of the information I kind of had and just at least wanted to share because I think there's a lot of people out there that don't know different pieces of what we have going on. Um, and there are, like, I do know family who are on reserve who have been affected by this, and that's why I care so much because I get really angry because my daughter has status and we weren't raised on reserve, but then there are children who can receive that community belonging with their other siblings and cousins and whatever else that don't have access to that. So yeah, is there anything?
Like, is there any, like, what can we do, like, going forward to, like, expedite this in any way? Like, or we just have to sit and wait for the government to make that decision?
Well, and I think that's what happened. So with Bill C-31, there was a lot of women who had to be really angry and loud for about 20 years to even get to that stage.
Yeah,
And
my mom was
so,
one of them. Yeah.
yeah, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's part of it, right? I think we need to know the information, and I think we need to accumulate women with similar stories, and then at some point potentially come together to be able to create a lot more noise and even go to the government in the same fashion as
Yeah.
they would have had to, yeah, back
So
in
that's
the
kind of
80s.
what the lady that I had spoke to on the phone had kind of said, is that we need to, like, to be louder about it.
Hmm.
Um, but
Okay. Yeah. And I think what it comes down to as well is calling as often as you can, putting it in your calendar to call, right? I'm gonna call up again. Or writing that letter, right? Getting some family members. I did that. Yeah. What did I do? I wrote a letter for one of our family members to say, okay, so my daughter has status. I'm on this line, right? Just because of a certain date, that to me doesn't necessarily make sense. I'm on this line with my cousins. My daughter has status, and then my cousin's children do not. That is not logical.
Yeah.
Just because of that specific date, that is not logical to me. And so that was what I actually put in my letter was that is yeah, do something that's actually logical. And
so I
part of
did write a letter in and sent it to the protest unit, basically stating all that, stating all of the family, everybody that has it except for the three kids. Um, it seems like for me, because I put in the dispute, that I'm limited now to what I can do.
yeah,
Because now they have to go through their system of somebody going over and checking it all over again. But as she was looking at it, that's when she basically stated that it was the 85 because I knew that you had to be that there was some sort of thing. I didn't know it was marriage.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I didn't
I thought
either.
it was that Cody needed to be born before 85, and then that's when she came out and was said, no, it's the marriage thing too. And I said, okay, well then that without specifying yes, I didn't want to give them yes or no with that date, but that was my takeaway from the conversation.
Unreal. Yeah, had no idea about that marriage date. And that's just as I feel like that's a bit of a crock. I wonder if they're sort of leaning on that now, because I have never seen that, and I am going to be looking into that.
I didn't agree with her or deny it because like I say I didn't know if there was some way they would still slip it through and give the boys it. I didn't want to clarify a wedding date to them and I just said, yeah, I'm not sure when they're married that I would go back and look into it was kind of how I left it. Um,
Oh, so did you
but
have to, Leanne, did you have to send in your marriage certificate or something?
we
No.
didn't send anything with our boys. Nothing was attached as a marriage certificate, and that's why I just didn't want to clarify and just said, okay, well, that's something to look into. Um, but we didn't send anything like that or write down on the forms. We just wrote like the family tree essentially with all of the status numbers
Hmm.
from each
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. Wow.
So out of all the kids, like my grandmother had like 13 children and
Mhm.
who all went on to have children and so forth and so on. And of all those people, only my three grandsons are denied.
Yeah, wild. Are you the youngest?
No.
Or yeah, I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, how that kind of works.
Yeah, like
So
my sister's kids all have her grandkids all have it.
Even the babies that have been born after our
Yeah,
kids.
like the babies that were just born all have it. But because she was married in 77 or whatever, that's what they're
mhm.
saying because of her marriage date and I didn't get married till 87. So,
That is the patriarchy at work. If I've ever heard anything, that the fact that they're looking at these native women who get married at a certain date
yeah.
based on this Eurocentric, like, well, you got to be married before you have your children or whatever, whatever. Like my cousin Aaron, um, I mean, yeah, I just find that so wild. I think yeah, no, his
Yeah,
mother,
so what happens to the women that didn't get married?
yeah. Well, and they don't get, yeah, they don't get status still. So or how does that work? I'd have to write that part out.
I think
If
they still get it as long as they're born before 85.
Okay, so here's the thing. Yeah, my mom didn't marry my biological father, but my daughter has status. So it goes probably by my birth date of 1978.
Yeah,
Because if
it's you had to be what she told me was born or married before 85. Um so if anybody after 85 was then they would and say they didn't get married or whatever, but they were born after 85, then
after
their kids
85.
wouldn't get it. But if they're born before 85 and married before and the grandparents married before, I guess, because I think it would have been different had Cody been born before 85 or somehow we
Yeah.
were married before then. But um yeah. And
So,
I did
so
try to bring up to her that it was pretty ridiculous with what Mary had to go through having her status taken away. And now they're essentially doing that to her grandkids again
Yeah.
yeah,
with a discrimination. And like,
yeah,
I mean, she agreed that this isn't what it should be like, but that there's nothing that they could do until that it was passed or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, the law changed. That is wild. So my cousin Tara, I don't know if you heard my cousin Aaron, but so my two cousins, kind of they're a few years apart, but one of them was married in 1976, maybe married in 1976, had their kids after after me, yeah, probably around like 1985. But then one of them was married after 1985 and then had the kids. So just because she was married before 1985, because she was married before 1985, her kids, her grandchildren can get status
Yeah.
just because of that marriage date.
Yep,
Um,
that's yeah,
yeah,
why, because one of Cody's cousins is born after 85, but her kids get it because her parents were born or married, sorry, before 85.
yeah. Okay. That is so wild. I didn't even know that was a part of it. But I mean, it's kind of something that saves some of these mothers and supports their grandchildren getting status. I mean, it does do that, but the fact that that's in play and in place is just so, I mean, just it's discrimination. Yeah, wild. Hmm. Okay. So then at the band meeting on Sunday, they are going to be talking about the second generation cutoff rule. So that's part of it too, Leanna. I think we do need to just build a community of women and people
Yeah.
because even there are even some well, it started up with women who were enfranchised, and so
Hmm.
those great grandmothers or grandmothers that were enfranchised. So putting that into place, but now it's not even that, right? It's not even enfranchisement. It's individuals growing up on reserve who were raised to know that their children would never get status. It was just this knowing and this understanding that that would not happen. And so I think that there's a part there of just sort of acceptance and not wanting to create a fight or anything like that and just hoping things are going to work out. When we can see flatly that we can't necessarily rely on the government to make those decisions for us, that we do have to be loud and create a bit of a movement to be able to move things forward because we're not necessarily sure what's going to happen with treaty, with self-government, and what that even looks like. So um, I listened to Pam Palmater about Section 10 and just what her nation has done. And I can't remember what nation she's from, but there are some nations that have under Section 10 have allowed these children under the second generation cutoff rule to be part of the band membership list, even though they don't have status. And then at some point down the line, they can decide to then apply for status or whatever that looks like. That's just something else too to consider um, moving forward on. So you have kind of discrimination either way, really. Either your band's not going to give you any type of a membership, or the government's not going to give you a type of membership.
So how would you apply for a band membership without having status?
You can't right now.
No.
No.
Isn't that part of what's changing is that the government will no longer be the ones to grant you status, that it will solely go off of your band and their decision. I can't
Well,
Like
I feel
they're
like
self-governed.
yeah.
was that something that I think the lady had explained to me that was changing, or maybe I heard it somewhere else, but um that is part of what I had was told, was that it won't be up to the government anymore, and that it'll be up to the bands themselves.
Okay, so that's the part of the collaboration on the second generation cutoff rule right now. So has the Weewakai is going to going through this collaboration process with the Canadian government to be able to figure out how to work that through under Section 10 of the Indian Act, where you can define your own membership. Right now, though, our code says you first have to have status to be a member of the band. So
Right.
that's
Oh.
a stipulation. The first thing it says on our citizenship code is that you have to have status from the Canadian government first. So, I don't know, Tara. I didn't know about that part. If that's what the government is specifically, if is that what the government is specifically doing moving forward?
So
So
I
there,
feel like if I didn't hear it from Leanne, then that was what the lady on the phone told me when I
mm,
talked to her in the fall, because she had said that there are rules changing and whatnot. And so that was part of what I was, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's probably, I mean, the communication hasn't necessarily been as good as it could be on this issue. So, hopefully we'll be able to find more of that out on Sunday and what would happen with our nation. And Tara, did they say that specifically about Wewakai?
No, it was
Just
just
in general?
in general, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So yeah, maybe they could be taking these different pieces, but what I don't necessarily understand is we get government funding. So, I mean, yeah, what does that look like for our membership when it comes to funding and having it not having us under status, but then a band membership? What does that part then look like? If individuals won't be getting status, but they will be getting membership.
So I feel like
Mhm.
the way she explained it to me, but I could be completely wrong. Is that I took it as the band is deciding whether you have status or not. So not just maybe
Oh.
as a band member, but maybe as a whole. But I could be
Hmm.
completely wrong. But
Hmm.
that's kind of how I was seeing it, was that the government no longer will tell you whether you have status or not. It's based off of the band allowing you to have the status. And then I would assume having the status, you're a part of the band. But
Yeah.
maybe it's two different things. So that's something to completely um not take my word on it, because maybe that part's wrong, but that's how I took it, was that you would have your status and then you would be part of the band because they've given it status to you. But
Hmm.
I could be wrong on that.
Yeah. Well, and it's you saying that what I sort of started the conversation off with was before Indian status was a thing, there was only a band membership. So maybe we're going back to that part where we have that band membership, but we don't necessarily have status. Or, yeah, everybody who has status right now, keep the status. And then every new member will just have a band membership. And what does that look like, right? Right now, we get FNHA benefits, and we get certain benefits if we live off reserve with status. And also on reserve, there's certain benefits that we don't get off reserve as well.
Right.
So, yeah, I'd be interested to know what those might potentially be down the road. So part of this collaboration part as well, it's going to be ongoing for this entire year, and I think it's even going into 2026. Um, and so it doesn't necessarily, it's not anything that's going to happen soon. So yeah, to be able to sort of have this information and follow it. And I was hoping to kind of make this a bit of a session as well for different stories that come in, which we've heard those different stories. But there's also through the collaborative process, there's also I'm gonna go look to see. The collaborative process. There's also a Zoom sessions, and I think the next one that's coming up, if I can find it, there's a rights holder information kit that you can get, and there is also an information session as well. So the next information is March 31st. So let me just send that. I'm going to put that in the chat here. And then that way, oh, I can stop sharing. Sorry about that. So what you can do is in this chat piece here, what am I doing? Okay, if cannot get. Yeah, married. Okay, sorry. And yeah, if there's no marriage, Mom, we talked about that. It's based on birth. So it's either based on birth or marriage, whatever happened first.
Correct.
Mhm. Oh, okay, yeah. William, thanks. Myself and children do not fall under this rule. Okay, good. Yeah, I wasn't in married 19. Yeah, and he has. Yeah, you weren't married until 1991. Jesse was born in 1989 and he has status. Wow, guys, what do you think of that? So my brother was born in 1989. And my mom wasn't married until 1991, but he has status.
So
Yeah.
maybe they somehow in that they approved it, but didn't look completely at everything, maybe?
Wow. That is weird. I cannot figure some of this stuff out. So I think what would be really interesting, that's so funny, Mom. I never actually even thought about that too, of using Jesse as an example too. I feel like what we can do, because that's what some of these court cases, what they've done is they've been able to use other people and their family examples to be able to then go into court to overthrow a decision that had been made by the Canadian government. If you would like, I wrote a paper on Bill C-31 and I went through all of the other bills as well, Bill C-3 and Bill S-3, and I broke it all down as to how we got to these court cases and these proceedings. So if any of you are interested, you saw on Facebook, there's my name. You can just click on my name and send me a private message, and I can send that to you. It's actually pretty interesting. And I mean, yeah, depending on how much you love this stuff, because you can relate to it, it might not be as boring as it seems. But in the chat here, what I did is I've added, yeah, Jesse. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't even. Okay, so my brother got his status because I think it's because your status was reinstated to you, Mom, because of Bill C-31. I think that must have been why it is, because you're seen as that one parent. You're seen as the 6-1 without status. Yeah, I think you're seen as the 6-1. And so Jesse's kids, though, would not be able to get status if he doesn't marry somebody with status. That makes sense. And then and then for me, yeah, okay. So that's kind of what I wanted to do this too, to give other examples and ideas as to those pieces that kind of come into play, because it's very different. It seems very, very different for some people. Um, yeah, I got to think some of that one out. And then, yeah, so the information sessions on the collaborative process there, if you click on that link, so this is a session right from the government. So if you click on that link, you can go to Monday, March 31st at 1 p.m. and you can go to register for that information session. So that is next week. I feel like I might just want to go and just record the entire thing because it takes you through the collaborative process, and which our nation is doing anyway. I do have some videos from the last session I attended, but it's pretty much, it doesn't necessarily, it'll answer, they will answer your specific questions if something does come up. But what we've talked about is what people brought up at the last time, and they're like, yes, that is why. Like, I didn't find it very I didn't find it very helpful because it was pretty well everything we kind of already know, which I've sort of broken down some of those pieces. But yeah. Hmm. Yeah, so I think, Mom, it's because you were reinstated status, and so we got our status, both Jesse and I, but then it will trickle down to him based on that, maybe, yeah, perhaps based on that date he was born. I don't know. Yeah. How do you guys feel? Any more questions or anything you want to chat about?
No, I think it's good. Be nice to go to the meeting on Sunday and just see what they've are gonna come up with too. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Tara, how do you feel?
Um, I don't know. It's interesting that that not a lot of people maybe knew about the marriage in the 85, I guess.
hmm I know a lot of people I was talking about previously, we were just talking about birth date.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never had talked about that marriage component. I had no idea that was a part of it. Yeah. And then there's also Bill C-38. So that one is coming into play, and that's a bill that's been stopped um, because of the government and the state of the government. So depending on what happens with the new government, they might reinstate that bill or they might not. But the second generation cutoff rule is not part of that Bill C-38. The second generation cutoff is only being addressed through these collaborative sessions with First Nations. And that document as well, what was it? It's that rights holders kit. Yeah, this right holders kit here it goes through every First Nation community specific data on the second generation cutoff rule. So if there's anybody that you know that belongs to any of these, oh, I forgot to do my screen share again. Um, where is this? Okay. Yeah, if there's anybody that you know that is a part of another First Nation, sorry here. Um, if you go under that link I showed you and you go back through the consultation process, you can provide this information and it will tell them what how their nation will be affected. So I see like Wewakam's not on here, so they're not necessarily they don't have data for them about the second generation cutoff rule. So it's not necessarily about the collaboration process, but it is based on the second generation cutoff rule for information. So that piece too, right? If you're saying it's important to know how your nation will be affected when you're looking at the second generation cutoff rule. So 37% of our band this affects. Well,
So
and the
I might
band
have
as a
come in
whole. Mhm.
I might have come in a little bit late. What is like the timeline with like where they're at with trying to change this right now with the second generation? You like it's going into possibly 2026, you said?
Yeah. Yeah, so right now they're going through the collaboration process right now for Wewakai and the government. So they're going through this collaboration process. They're being able to support financially. So I don't necessarily know what they're planning on doing. So that's part of the conversation that I'd be interested to hear. What the next steps are. But on this collaboration process, there's a kit. So positions, additional information support. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the chat as well, and it will give you. So this is the document that you can get online about the actual process and what they're going through. And if you do sign up for one of those information sessions, they'll take you through everything. Um, I remember I'm going to bring this down and just do my screen share again because I'll just show you the document. So then that way you can just see at least what it looks like if you do want to check that out. Okay, so so it goes through that 1985 and I'm going to search in here and just see. I wonder if I can do that search. I was going to see if I can search and see if there's anything about marriage. Marriage. Yeah. Oh, through marriage to a man. If they were a child lost, okay. Marriage to a father. Doop-a-doo. Before. Okay, so if a person is only one entitlement parent and that parent gained their entitlement through marriage before April 17th, 1985. Okay, so here you go. Here's the marriage component right here. So that's where it is. Okay, and this is the first time I've ever heard about marriage. Okay, so here's the consultation process here. This is just this kit. This is just this kit just to see if you're ready as a nation. So it doesn't necessarily go on into the process of what's happening next. So we'll find that out on Sunday what the nation's actually doing. Yeah. Okay. So that's in that second link that I sent there. And the first link is to have a conversation specifically with the government if you want to do that. And in the conversation I had, yes, it's discriminatory, and we're working through it, right? So I think we really do have to create a bit of a stink if we want to get farther faster. Hmm. And then what I'll do right now is I'll put up that section 10, the information about section 10. I'll put that video in the community space. Are you all on the Wewakai community group, or are you on the membership only group?
I tried to join a group, but I haven't been approved yet. I'm not sure which one that was.
Okay, here, let me see. Did you guys copy and paste those links that I have in the chat there right now?
Not yet. I will.
I have no idea how to do any of that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not too computer savvy.
Okay,
I
yeah,
think
no
you just
problem
hit
then.
click on it and then hit copy, and then you can paste it into notes, I'm guessing, and then it'll.
Yeah. Well, Krista, you can probably help, right?
Yeah,
And
and it's
Sarah too?
mostly
Okay.
it's mostly for those two girls anyways, so
Okay.
I'm just really just listening.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna figure out how to do this. Um,
I'm gonna leave the chat though, so you guys can
yeah.
carry on. It was nice talking to you, Jamie, and
Yes, you too.
thanks for the information, and I hope it works out for the girls at some point.
At some point.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, nice
Thanks.
meeting you, Leanne.
Yeah, you too. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Sounds good. Okay,
Bye bye.
bye. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to share this link with you guys, and then that way you have it in here. Share. I'm gonna email it to me. Oh, okay, there you go. And so then you have it here. You don't necessarily have to go into any of the community pages or anything like that, and you can just get it right there. And it's a really cool video. It gives you a little bit more information on Section 10 and also how some individuals throughout Canada feel and how they were affected by some of the Section 10 rules applied through their First Nation. So even though, some of the status piece is discriminatory, there's also some pieces within citizenship codes that were also discriminatory, that affect people too. So it doesn't necessarily even matter if you just have the membership or the citizenship or not. There were still a lot of emotional components for individuals that they experience not having one or the other. So you see that link right there. Let me know once you have that. And
Yeah, I've copied both.
I highly recommend watching it. It was really interesting. And then know too that Wewakai is part of Section 10. That's our membership authority.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got them all copied.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on, guys. It's 8 o'clock, so I don't want to, I don't know, take up more of your time or anything like that. And you can always send me a message on Facebook if there's anything else. I'm happy to research if you have any questions too, to be able to provide any additional information. I love researching and I love this topic. And I'm in school right now, and so I'm using this information as well in my research projects. So
Are you
always
going to be at the
always
meeting on
interested.
Sunday?
I will. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
So if you see me, come up, please, and introduce yourself, Krista.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna try and get there. If not, I'll be on Zoom. So
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. No, love that. So, We'll see you at some point, I'm sure, anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. It was
Thank you.
nice to meet you.
And you too. And thank you so much, Tara, too, for what you had to say and your information. And that too is so lovely to hear other people's perspectives because every situation is so completely different and all of our emotions are so different too, which I find really interesting in having these conversations with people. Um, and this is information too. These are pieces that most people who aren't even a part of a First Nation. So when I tell them these rules, people get angry,
Oh
like
yeah.
for us, right? People get really, really angry. And then now that we're trying to instill our rights that were taken away in the 50s and 60s, and 70s, trying to get those rights back,
Mhm.
it shouldn't have to be a fight.
No, and it
No,
just
it
make it
should be
make sense.
bloodline. Like it just
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
add up. And if Mary was here today, I feel like she would be very she wouldn't be impressed at all.
Nope.
So
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I feel like. I think of my grandmother quite a bit and it fuels me up, thinking about her and what she may have thought or what she may have experienced. It really does fuel my eagerness to work out some of these glitches within our larger system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Kayla Kesla. Yes, and we'll see you soon.
Okay,
thank you.
bye.
Okay. Bye. Oh yeah, and I guess I better stop the video.